Hey guys, I'm going to do something. Today we're going to be doing Week 11 Power Rankings. It's officially part of the late season. I consider like Week 11 to Week 17 as a late season. So, why does the NFL season go by so fast? I feel like I was just watching Week 1 like last week or something. It's crazy. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So, this is going to be, so I should start the introduction of what this is. So, this is going to be part 1, which is going to be from 32 to 17. If you're looking for part 2, which is 16 to 1, that'll be, a link will pop up at the top of your screen, probably before now, but maybe it's happening now, I don't know. But just know that, you could watch part 2 after this one if you want to get the other half of my power rankings. Or, you could just watch this one, or you could just watch that one. You do whatever you want. Just know that it's there. All right, so in 32nd, as it's pretty obvious by literally everything, it's the Jets. They have been dead last since week 2, and they will probably be there forever. I think every single NFL fan just kind of wants the Jets to go 0-16. Because, 1-15 isn't that satisfying, but a team going 0-16, that's just perfect. And seeing as now, Joe Flacco is still in the quarterback, and he had a pretty good game last week. But looking at how he's fared earlier this season, I'm just gonna say that maybe it was a fluke. I don't know. If he plays it again, then they have a definite chance of going up 31st. But other than that, really their whole team is kind of terrible. I think you can probably tell by the fact they're 0-9, and everyone knows the Jets suck. I don't really have to explain myself. And 31st, we have the Cowboys. They had their bye week, and they dropped down 2. Can't really say much. Nothing really happened this week. The fact that they moved down 2 is mainly the teams that were in 31st and 30th probably moved up. It probably had a lot to do with teams moving around more than it had to do with teams moving around. It had nothing to do with the Cowboys. If you want to know what I think about them, I obviously think they're pretty bad. Let me check. Andy Dalton's back, but still, Andy Dalton didn't play too well when he was in there. Actually, I think Garrett Gilbert played better than Andy Dalton. So I guess they did actually move down a bit because of that. The fact that Andy Dalton's and did actually bump him down a bit. But yeah, the Cowboys, one of the worst defenses, and their offense is terrible. I do think their offense is a bit better than the Jets, though, and that is kind of what's holding them up right now. It was pretty close, though. This is like the second week where it's actually been close between who's going to get dead last. 30th, we have the Broncos. They dropped down 3. Terrible loss against the Raiders. They were having a pretty good couple of games there. Yeah, they lost a few games there, but they actually were competitive against some pretty good teams. And then they go out here, I think it was 37 to 12, something like that. A really, really bad beatdown. The Broncos got completely destroyed by a team that's not even very elite. Yeah, the Raiders are definitely playoff contenders, but to get beat by 25 points to a team like the Raiders definitely says a lot about how bad the Broncos are. And really, this season, they really need to draft a quarterback next year. Drew Lock is looking more and more like a bust. So, yeah, the Broncos, 3-6, and looking like they're going to lose somewhere. In 29th, we have the Giants, who actually bump up one. They managed to get a pretty good win against Philadelphia. The reason they didn't move up even more is mainly because Philadelphia didn't exactly play very well in that game. The Giants, so they did kind of impress me. They have these past couple of weeks. They keep it up. They will definitely shoot up my power rankings. They're 3-7. They move up to second in NFC East, but still it doesn't mean much. 3-7. You don't go much higher than 29th. They win next week, which I'm pretty sure. Oh, yeah, they have a bye week, so they'll probably be in the same area next week. But who knows what they'll be in week 13. All right, next up we have the Jaguars, who move up 3 because they actually, I thought, they kept it close a few weeks ago against the Texans, or I guess last week against the Texans, and I thought, that was just because the Texans are playing badly. I basically, instead of saying, that game was the Jaguars playing well, I just said, that shows how bad the Texans are. But then they go out there and they only lose to the Packers by, I think it was 4 or 7 points, something like that. It was a really close one-score game, which I really did not expect. I think it was either 24-20 or 27-20, and the Jaguars actually look pretty good. Jake Luton is having a couple of pretty good games, and the Jaguars are kind of stepping it up. They are still 1-8 though, and they are still pretty bad. So they remain down in the bottom 25, but still, bottom 5 or whatever. I don't know. They're down there. They're part of the bottom 5. They move up 3, but it doesn't really mean much right now. They're in 28th. In 27th, we have the Bengals. They dropped down 1. They had a pretty bad loss to the to the Steelers, which, I mean, I think we all kind of expected. It was a bit worse than I had anticipated. It was a really, really bad loss, so they did drop down a bit, and also they probably would have dropped down more if they didn't have such bad teams behind them. But they're just so low. Like, I could not pit the Bengals down there with those other 5 teams. It's kind of like a big, I say that a lot, like in different spots, but there's a kind of a big separation between 28 and 27. Don't get me wrong, the Bengals are nowhere near as bad as the Jaguars, but right now this bottom 5 is kind of in its own little bubble. And the Giants and the Jaguars are trying to escape. Meanwhile, the Cowboys, Broncos, and Jets are just trying to go to 33rd. In 26th, we have the Texans, who move up to because their defense played really well. We've seen their offense play terribly, and this week they really relied on their defense, which did kind of, I mean, it worked kind of. They lost, but still. A lot of it had to do with the fact that the Browns defense was also playing pretty well. So the Texans offense really kind of played how I thought they would. They played terribly. They couldn't get anything done. Only one touchdown in the fourth quarter when it really didn't mean anything. Well, it did mean anything. They were only down 10-0, but still. At that point, their offense had been playing so bad, it would have been a surprise to see them score 10 points in one quarter. Could have happened, though, but still. But their defense did really surprise me, so they do manage to move up 2 spots. They are still down there. They are still a big disappointment from the season. They're 2-7, basically out of the playoffs at this point. And yeah, inside the top 25, but you couldn't make it out of the red zone. We have the Washington football team, who dropped down too, and they could have dropped down more. They had a pretty rough loss to the Lions, but here are the good things that we saw from this week. Their offense really overperformed what I thought they would. Alex Smith, for the second week in a row, threw for over 300 yards. He had 390, almost 400 yards. The Washington offense really, really surprised me how well it's played. Even their offensive line, I think they let up maybe 1 sack that whole game. Also, you saw that they have heart. They went out there in the game, and they managed to come back. Bad things, though, their defense played horribly in this game. And the thing that we talked about Washington before the season and, the weeks prior to this game was about how well Washington's defense has been playing. And they came out and they played terribly in this game. I know a lot of times I say I don't overreact from 1 week, and that's why they only moved down 2. They were really close for me in 27th. I was really close to putting them right above the Jaguars, and I decided, you know what? Their offense played pretty well, good enough to put them above the Texans and all this. I'm just going to say, their defense played pretty well in the weeks prior to this, and I'm just going to say that it was a fluke or an off game. And yeah, next up, we have the man that could be doing better. This is going to be the last little list that we look at in this video. So again, once this is over, go ahead and watch that second video or not. It's up to you. In 24th, we have the Bears, who dropped down 4. Tough loss against the Vikings on Monday Night Football. They dropped down 4 because everyone always talks about how bad their offense is, but that Monday Night Football game was as bad. I mean, their offense was pitiful. They could not get anything done. They scored 6 offensive points, and now, and I know it means nothing, but Nick Foles is still questionable, so we could see that Bray guy. I don't even remember his name. I'm looking at their depth chart, and that guy who was in, I don't know if you watched the game, but Nick Foles actually got injured towards the end of that game. He's not on their depth chart. That guy, he must not be a quarterback. I'm not exactly sure, but right now, the Bears' offense played pitifully. Their defense didn't even play too well, actually. Yeah, it was definitely the better part of their team. It didn't play horrendously, but it underperformed. And the Bears, 5-5. I would not be surprised to see them go 7-9 at this point, or something even worse than that. I mean, you take a 5-1 team and go 3-7. It's pitiful. They haven't done it yet. They could still go 11-5, but still, that's really unlikely. In 23rd, I clicked. It should be switching over. Is it not? I'll click again. There we go. We have the Eagles, who actually managed to move up too. I would just completely ignore that. Probably has a lot to do with teams moving around them. Yeah, they played pretty badly, but that's really what we expected. It's kind of like if a team had a bye week. They kind of played exactly how I expected. So really, they don't move much at all. Yeah, the Giants overperformed, in my opinion. That's why they moved up a lot. But the Eagles, they really didn't play a lot differently than I kind of thought they would. They're 3-5-1. They're still first in the NFC East. They are 1.5 games. Actually, no, they're 1 game away from the next. No, because the Giants have a bye week. They could be out of this number 1 seed in the NFC East by week 13. So, it's not a great hold on the NFC East, but they are still up there. Win a couple more games. They could run away with it at 5-1. And with the Eagles, they move up too, mainly because teams moving around them. Sorry if that made no sense, me mumbling there. It made no sense to me either. 22nd, come on. I want to see who's 22nd. Do you need to click again? There we go. We had the Detroit Lions, who somehow managed to drop down 4, and that's because of how badly their defense played. Yeah, I was talking about, Washington's offense playing pretty well. And yeah, they did get the win, but a lot of that had to do with Washington's defense playing pretty badly and allowing their offense to step it back up. Which, yes, I'm going to give them credit for. They did actually play pretty well. But also towards the end of the game and that game-winning drive, that was all accredited to a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty by Chase Young that kind of sealed the game for the Lions. Well, it didn't seal the game. It was almost a 60-yard field goal, but still, it put them in field goal range. Also, their defense, there was a drive when Washington was down 27-24 driving, and the Lions just made penalty after penalty after penalty. I think Washington completed 3 passes for 33 yards, and it ended up going like 60 yards down the field, all because of them dropping penalties. Also, their defense did not hold up towards the end of the game. They almost lost the game, and that would have been after being up 24-3. Like, I think there were 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and they were up by 21 points. You really should be able to hold on to that. So they didn't impress me at all. I thought they should have got a much bigger win here. So yes, I did manage to get the win, but I did not like the fashion that they got it in. If they had held on to that 24-3 lead and made it, 34-13 at the end of the game, they would have moved up. But right now, did not impress me, and in the state that all these other teams are in, they just dropped down 4. Again, a lot of that has to do with teams moving around them. They really, in my mind, didn't move down that much, but still, it had a lot to do with teams moving around them. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, who this past week went out, and if my schedule will load, I'm sorry, I completely forgot what game they played. What game did they play? Did they have a bye week this week? I have a feeling they did. No, they didn't. Oh, they lost to Miami. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, they got a touchdown. It was it was only an 8-point game, but that has a lot to do with the fact it was a late touchdown that kind of put it to 8 points when it was really just, garbage time. But the Chargers have not looked good. I know a lot of times we talk about them, they should have won games. This is a game that they really should not have. They didn't play well. They didn't bomb a lead. They were losing, and they could not come back, and the Dolphins just played better than them. It's that, you could look at all these other games, the Denver game, not the Jacksonville game, they won that game, the New Orleans game, all of these other games. You can sit there and say, a lot of that has to do with the fact that, the other team started playing pretty well towards the end of the game. I don't care. This game was all on the Chargers. Next up, the Vikings have looked good these past 3 weeks. They are on a 3-game winning streak. They were 1-5. Everyone counted them out. Now they're 4-5, and they are looking hot. They completely demolished. I know it was only a 6-point game, but still, they completely. If you watched the game, you would have seen. I think the Bears. I got maybe 2 first downs in the second half. The Vikings completely demolished them, especially in the second half. Their offense looked on fire. Not Devontae Cook. Dalvin Cook, that's his name. Dalvin Cook looked amazing. He played great in that game. I think 96 yards. The Vikings offense has been looking great. Their defense, which is really their weakness the first couple of weeks, has really stepped it up. And they are looking like it's not impossible for them to make a playoff run here. And I'll be interested to see what they can do. And now, again, a few weeks ago, maybe, I don't know which week it was, but sometime in mid-season, they actually had it was around when they beat the Texans. They actually started playing not this good, but around, they started playing really, really well, and then they kind of fell back into that playing badly. They started, I think the Falcons game was the game that they kind of fell back into their old habits. Now they've won 3 straight. If they end up at 4-7, that's kind of it for them. But right now they're 4-5. Things are not over. We'll see what happens. At 19th. So top 20. Speaking of the Falcons, here they are. We've got the Atlanta Falcons. I keep on saying I think they had a bye week. I don't remember seeing anything about them. I do a weekly recap. I should know this stuff. Let's talk about the Falcons. Where are they? Well, the Falcons, either way, they have a really explosive offense. That defense is kind of disappointing me every week. Let me check. I feel really embarrassed if I completely forgot 2 games. Yeah, they had a bye week. I'm not insane. They play New Orleans next week, so they're not looking forward to that. But yeah. So all I can say is they had a bye week, so I can't really say much. Sorry, I'm kind of forgetting a lot of stuff here. All right, 49ers got demolished by the Saints. And I mean, the Saints didn't even really do much on offense. The 49ers just kind of self-destructed that whole time. They looked terrible out there. And again, you can accredit it to a lot. I mean, you obviously can't accredit it to injury, but still they underperformed to what we've seen in like the Eagles game. I know they're going to be a much tougher opponent here, but still I thought they'd play better, and they didn't. The Saints offense kind of underperformed. That's why it wasn't such a big blowout, but still they got pretty badly beaten. I think it was 13-27. Yeah, it was pretty bad. At 17th, we have the Patriots, who bump up 5. They went out there and they beat the Ravens, who are still probably a top 10 team. I forgot where I put them at this point. But the Patriots, they looked pretty well. They finally figured it out. They're not passing the ball all that much. I think Damian Harris had more rushing yards than Cam Newton had passing yards. Their defense stepped it back up, and they were holding down. And the Ravens' offense was, at this point, it's looking like it's not that hard to do. The Ravens' offense has not been playing well at all. They just kind of ran the ball a lot on offense, which is what they seem to be good at, and then they just played a really defensive and rushing game. Looked like the team from the 80s. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. Please go watch part 2, which is the 16th best team to the number 1 team. So you're interested to see who there's this weird man who keeps on stumbling through his words. Who does he think the number 1 NFL team in the league? Go watch that video. And if you're coming from part 2, if you went and you clicked on part 2 first and you went ahead and watched this one, howdy, go back and watch part 2 now. Anyways, I am gonna go ahead and I'm literally gonna press stop video, and I'm gonna press start video, and then you're gonna go watch part 2, and yeah.